trends in gaming are very cyclical. Whether it was the Doom clones of the 90s or the huge MMO boom in the late 2000s to early 2010s, you can pretty much guarantee that once a game hits it big, there's going to be about 50 more that are going to release to try and get a piece of that same pie. At the end of every boom though, there are usually a few games that stick it out and lead the genre, a few more niche ones that have found their space in the market, and then a vast grave of ones that just frankly couldn't make the cut. In today's video, we're going to examine just that. We're going to take a look back throughout the entire history of the Battle Royale genre, how it started, how it blew up, and where it's at today. While the concept of a battle royale is actually pretty simple, take a bunch of people, drop them in an area, and have them fight until only one team remains, it is very interesting to see the progression of media that led us to the current trend of gaming, where it seems every publisher wants to have their own mega battle royale under their catalog. And to be honest, who could blame them? Games like Fortnite, Warzone, and Apex seem to rake in almost endless amounts of money for the publishers who put them out. One could argue the start of the battle royale genre leads all the way back to the 1999 novel, also titled Battle Royale, by Koshim Takami. This novel was then later turned into a movie in 2000. If you haven't heard of this novel or movie though, I'll forgive you, as it is a Japanese action thriller, and as far as I can remember, it didn't really have any big fanfare here in the West. After this film and novel though, followed a wave of Battle Royale themed anime and manga. Some notable ones included Gantz in 2000, Future Diary in 2006, and Batum in 2009. During this, you also saw the first attempts at a battle royale video game. However, these weren't anything like what we have today, as these were Japanese visual novel games that attempted to adapt the battle royale formula. Things like Zero Escape in 2009 and Danganronpa in 2010. However, like I said, these were very different from the genre that we think about today, and that genre really began to come to fruition after the Hunger Games hit mainstream success.
I volunteer as tribute.
Okay. In 2008, an American writer by the name of Suzanne Collins released the first of 3 books in the Hunger Games series. This series centered all around what was effectively a battle royale between the various contestants from the different districts. Though obviously there were many other storylines and character arcs to follow in these books, especially as you got into the later books, which focused much less on the Hunger Games aspect of the game and more on the revolution that was happening. This was really the first time the genre had hit it big in the West, in my opinion. And once it began to be adapted into movies in 2012, the wheels began to turn. With the massive success of the Hunger Games arose a little Minecraft mod aptly named Hunger Games. While these servers evolved over the years, the premise was very similar to the books, where you would be dropped into an arena, scavenge for weapons and other resources, and duke it out to be the last one remaining. While the mods of Minecraft were probably the most influential of the early mods to the behemoth of the genre today, it wasn't the only game that featured these Hunger Games style modes. Other games like Counter-Strike Go, Halo 5, and basically any game that allowed users to create custom game modes or maps feature them in one way, shape, or form. The style of the mode was just extremely popular, and it was this next mod that was about to take it to a whole new level. In 2012, a mod for Arma 2 was about to completely shake up the gaming landscape, and that mod was no other than DayZ. While the mod was still not similar to the standalone battle royale games that we have today, DayZ allowed players to get a taste of that BR goodness, even if the combat was scarce at times due to the size of the map and overall flow of gameplay. However, as time went on, this was alleviated as more game modes and other mods began to be adapted that sacrificed the open-ended style of DayZ in favor of forcing players into more frequent fights. The most influential of these was Bending Green, aka PlayerUnknown's Battle Royale mod of DayZ, which released in 2013. This mod was what really started to look like the modern Battle Royale, as weapons were randomly scattered around the map, similar to many of the later games. He would later go on to recreate this mod for Arma 3 in 2014, then eventually go on to be a consultant for H1Z1, and then eventually becoming a creative developer at Bluehole, which would be the company behind the later behemoth PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. The first standalone game to really hit the ground running was H1Z1 that released on January 15th, 2015 in early access. The game had a survival focus mode and a battle royale focus mode named at the time H1Z1 King of the Kill, before rebranding altogether to Z1 Battle Royale. While the game was far from perfect and had a lot of polishing that needed to be done, it being the first game to truly represent the battle royale as a standalone standalone product and not a mod, led to a lot of success, and by March 2015, the game had sold over 1 million copies. As you can see from the Steam charts, the game really peaked in 2017 and was hitting player bases well into the 100,000 concurrent users for many months before it all came crashing down. A bit after H1Z1 came the next attempt at a battle royale, this time with a totally different spin. While H1Z1 was more gun focused, on March 4th of 2016, Xaviant released The Culling, which took a totally different dive at the genre, focusing on crafting and different styles of combat. Being another early comer to the genre and having a unique spin led to some success for The Culling, though it never got anywhere near the heights of H1Z1 and honestly fizzled out pretty quickly. The game was able to hit 10k peak concurrent players the month that it launched, and then basically dropped from there outside of a few blips for updates in the later months. While it's hard to determine exactly what did The Culling in, most likely it was just outshone by better games. However, the game was plagued by a lack of direction, as Xaviant seemed to flip-flop on design decisions from update to update, and these decisions turned away the hardcore audience that they did have at the time. Oddly enough, eventually Xaviant tried to release The Culling 2 on July 18th, 2018, which was literally just a PUBG ripoff, and it absolutely flopped. They then tried to relaunch The Culling 1 as The Culling Day 1, which was a re-release of the original build of The Culling that had that initial success. This actually did bring some players back, but it didn't do enough to bring The Culling back, and eventually Xaviant had to shut down The Culling altogether. Before they did though, they tried some hilarious model in 2020 where you basically could only play one game per day unless you bought additional tokens, and that still makes me laugh to this day. Next up in the list of influential battle royales came the biggest one yet, and that was which was developed by PUBG Studios, who is a subsidiary of Krafton, who is the parent company of Bluehole. To be honest, the company structure is a little bit confusing, but basically, this is the company that the earlier talked about Brendan Green had gone to, and PUBG was basically his vision for a battle royale. The game first dropped into early access on Steam in March of 2017, and instantly saw massive success. At one point in January of 2018, the game was peaking at over 3 million concurrent players on Steam alone. The game was and still continues to be huge today, especially in the East, and was extremely influential in changing the gaming landscape for years to come. While PUBG has fallen off a bit and has always been plagued by technical issues, it is important to drive home how successful this game has been on PC, consoles, and even the mobile port, which is absolutely massive. The game, as of the end of 2021, had sold over 75 million copies, and the mobile version had over 1 billion downloads, and has grossed over $8.42 billion. It cannot be understated how massive PUBG has become. It was at this point that the battle royale genre really was on everyone's map, and there was basically no stopping it at this point. Tons of developers were starting to jump in and try and get a piece of the pie. However, it was none other than Epic Games that would again take the genre to a whole new level. Epic Games at the time had been working on a title known as Fortnite Save the World, which was essentially a co-op survival game that had a mechanic in which players could use materials to build forts or other structures as they went about their game session. While Save the World was never anything huge, and honestly I barely even remember people talking about it before the battle royale, it was Epic's decision to shoehorn a battle royale into their existing game that catapulted the game to becoming one of the biggest games of all time. On September 26, 2017, Epic dropped Fortnite Battle Royale, which was pretty similar to the previous H1Z1 and PUBG, with three main distinctions in my opinion. The first one was the building mechanic, which at the time was just a cool mechanic that allowed players to build forts, build little structures in their games, and it had not yet evolved into the skyscraper simulator that you see today. The second of these was that unlike games like PUBG, H1Z1, and even The Culling, Fortnite Battle Royale was completely free to play. And lastly, it didn't run like absolute crap like PUBG and H1Z1 did at the time. These factors, along with the fact that the art style was way more distinct and colorful, allowed Fortnite to absolutely explode, eventually surpassing PUBG in both player count and revenue. By May of 2020, the game had exceeded 350 million players.
Hey, that's pretty good.
And while we cannot see the day-to-day player counts today, it still easily remains one of the biggest games on console, mobile, and PC, and it really shows no signs of slowing down. However, this was not the end of the BR craze by any means, as we still had multiple of the behemoths left to come out. But in the meantime, we still saw a ton of various studios try and often fail to capture audiences with their own spins on the battle royale genre. We're not going to go over every battle royale that came out here, but just ones that I think think are notable or at least interesting to talk about a little bit. The first of these was Garena Free Fire. This game to me isn't really anything special, but it went into beta on September 30th, 2017, and it was a mobile battle royale that released before PUBG Mobile, and it became relatively popular as it was basically a PUBG clone, and it just beat PUBG itself to the mobile market. Next up on October 11th, 2017, Survive.io, which was developed by Justin Kim and Nick Clark, released, which allowed players to play a 2D drop-down battle royale on their browsers, and for the scale of the game and what it was, it saw pretty decent success. It was also just pretty cool that you could launch it up on a browser and play a battle royale basically anywhere you had access to an internet browser. Next up on April 1st, 2018, Path of Exile released a battle royale as an April Fool's joke. Later on though, this mode actually ended up being fleshed out and re-released on July 16th, 2021. Moving forward a few months, on June 5th, 2018, Hi-Rez decided to, throw their hat in and give it a shot at the battle royale genre with Realm Royale. This was originally a game mode for paladins, but Hi-Rez decided to spin it off as its own standalone game. The game has unfortunately mostly died off now, only seeing peaks of about 1,000 players on Steam for many of the recent months, but upon its release the game did see a lot of eyeballs, with over 100,000 concurrent players tuning in for the launch on Steam. Next up on July 5th, 2018, Totally Accurate Battlegrounds went into beta, which was a spin-off of Totally Accurate Battle Simulator with some heavily exaggerated physics. This was a game that just basically parodied the genre, and it was never anything absolutely huge, but it saw almost 30,000 concurrent players on Steam upon release, and then kind of died off until it went free to play in 2021 and saw a slight resurgence. Next up on this list, I want to talk about Ring of Elysium by Aurora Studios. This went into early access on September 19th, 2018, and while I never actually got around to playing this one, it did see some pretty decent success and was actually a little unique at the time, as it allowed players to do things like BMX, snowboard, and even had dynamic weather that could kill you. Currently, unfortunately, it sits at under 1,000 players on Steam, but back in November of 2018, the game saw 50,000 concurrent players and was actually able to continue that momentum for a few months before eventually starting to fall off. Next up is another battle royale that didn't really see a lot of success, but I just think it's a little bit interesting to talk about, and that is Battle Royale. This released on September 26, 2018, and it was basically a battle royale for the mobile style arena game Battle Royale. This one never saw much success and is basically dead now. However, I find it interesting because these were some of the first arguments that were made that the dev time spent on this could have been better spent on the main game, which as of October of 2019, both the main game and the battle royale ceased getting updates and were put into maintenance mode. So you have to wonder, if they had not spent their time trying to make a battle royale with their existing game, could they have focused on the main battle royale game and seen more success with that, or was the game destined to die regardless? Next up is another very big one in the history of the battle royale, and that is Blackout, which was developed by none other than Treyarch. On October 12th, 2018, Blackout released, which was the battle royale for Black Ops 4. At the time, it was fairly well received and included nostalgic Black Ops maps as points of interest in the battle royale. While Blackout didn't go on to totally change the genre or anything like that, it paved the way for the much more successful COD Battle Royale that we'll talk about in a little bit. Next up is another one that isn't really that notable, but it's just kind of funny that it exists, and that's Danger Zone, that was released by Valve December 6th of 2018. This is a battle royale for CSGO of all games, and is actually still playable today, though it never really seemed to take off or anything like that, but it's just kind of funny that even Valve tried to put a BR into their title at the time. Next up came the next big drop for the battle royale genre, and that was Apex Legends, developed by Respawn Entertainment. This dropped on February 4th of 2019, and the game basically came out of nowhere. Almost immediately, it found its foothold amongst the genre, and by April of 2021, the game had over 100 million players. Obviously, Apex has had its ups and downs over the years, but is currently still one of the biggest games around, and recently even dropped its mobile version in May of this year. Though lots of players love Apex, one thing that it has done is leave a salty taste in the mouth of all the Titanfall fans who may never get a Titanfall 3 due to the massive success of Apex, which is housed in the Titanfall universe. There's been no news of an Apex Legends 2, however recently there was news that they're working on a single player Apex game, though I find it funny that it's going to be an Apex single player game and not a Titanfall single player game. Next up is another one that really didn't make too many waves in the battle royale genre, but that was Firestorm, which released on March 25th of 2019. This was developed by DICE and is the battle royale mode for Battlefield 5, and while it was decently reviewed, it was kind of just held back by the fact that it was in a buy to play game and wasn't the main focus of the game. And also at the the time, Battlefield 5 wasn't overly successful either. While it did okay, it wasn't a massive success like maybe they would have hoped it would have became by including a Battle Royale in the title. Next up is actually another game that implemented a Battle Royale into their existing game, and that was Nuclear Winter, which was the Battle Royale for Fallout 76 that released on June 10th of 2019. Fallout 76 in general has kind of been a mess, and I actually never went and checked out this Battle Royale, but as far as I'm aware, it's still playable today, so you can go check it out if you wish. Next up is one that really had almost no impact on the genre, but I just think it's funny, and that's Tetris 99 that released on July 13th of 2019 by Recon, and this was released just for the Nintendo Switch, and it was exactly what it sounds like, a Tetris Battle Royale. I just think that's cool, and it was kind of worth mentioning in this video. Next up, Cod Mobile released on October 1st of 2019 by Timmy Studios, and this included a Battle Royale. The entire mobile game, which isn't just the Battle Royale, but you know, the whole kind of suite, is absolutely massive and generated over 270 million downloads within the year it launched and over $480 million. COD Mobile continues to be absolutely massive today and is a major money driver for Activision at this current point in time. Next up, we obviously have to talk about Warzone, which dropped on March 10th of 2020. Warzone went on to be absolutely massive, and as of April 2021, Warzone had surpassed over 100 million active players. Obviously, Warzone 2 is on the horizon, but Warzone arguably kind of completely revived and brought COD back to the mainstream in terms of console and PC games, and without Warzone, you do have to wonder if some of these multiplayer COD titles may have started to fall off by now. But Warzone continues to go strong, even though just like Apex and other live service games, it's had its ups and downs, but it continues to be extremely popular today. Next up is one of the many failed Ubisoft games in recent memory, and that was Hyperscape. This went into beta on July 12th of 2020 and was actually pretty unique, as it was a little bit more Quake or arena shooter-esque with lots of verticality and movement and a much longer time to kill than we'd seen in other battle royales. Unfortunately, Hyperscape died out pretty quickly and eventually was shut down altogether. Another interesting battle royale that dropped later that year was on August 4th of 2020, Mediatonic put out Fall Guys. This was a completely different style of battle royale and was focused completely around mini games and kind of having that party game atmosphere that you'd seen from Mario Party. In December of 2020, Mediatonic confirmed sales of more than 11 million copies on PC, and recently with the game going free to play, it is seeing a massive resurgence and has now passed over 50 million players. While it hasn't hit its launch numbers of over 100,000 concurrent players, it's still holding over 50,000 peak concurrent players as of July. Moving on down the list, we're almost kind of done here for the history, was Naraka Blade Point, developed by 24 Entertainment. This dropped on August 11th, 2021 and sold over 6 million copies. This one's actually pretty unique as it's a little bit more action orientated instead of being a shooter like many of the other battle royales that we talked about in this video, so I just wanted to include it as it has kind of done its own thing and found its own player base. And last but not least is just an interesting battle royale, although it hasn't really made a big splash or anything like that, and that's Vampire the Masquerade Blood Hunt. This dropped on September 7th of 2021 by Shark Mob AB, and it's actually a pretty unique one, as the franchise was previously an RPG franchise, but Shark Mob went and adapted it into a pretty cool and unique movement and verticality focused battle royale. You could argue somewhat similar to Hyperscape, though the time to kill is a lot shorter and it's actually in third person instead of first person. Unfortunately, things aren't going amazing for this game on Steam today, but after the full release in April of 2022, the game did see 20,000 peak concurrent users for a few months and has only recently fallen to a little under 3,000 peak concurrents as of July. And that pretty much catches up to where we are today. Now, there are some battle royales or rumored battle royales that we know about kind of upcoming in maybe the next year or so, and then it's just kind of speculation about the future. One obviously that we know about later this year is going to be Warzone 2. Activision announced Warzone 2.0, which is supposed to release shortly after Modern Warfare 2 in 2022. However, we've basically seen nothing about Warzone 2 other than basically the announcement. It'll be interesting to see if this kind of revitalizes and really brings Warzone back to the forefront, or if it kind of stays in the same spot that it is currently, which by no means is a small title, just a little bit smaller than its peaks of when Warzone was really popping off. There's also the possible rumored Halo Infinite Battle Royale, which is being developed by Certain Affinity and is set to release in either 2023 or 2024. This is another one that we've seen absolutely nothing about, but it will be interesting to see if this does come out, if it's able to save Halo Infinite, as that game is really struggling right now, though you know that's totally up in the air. This one's just a little bit interesting because a lot of people think that the game should have launched with the Battle Royale. However, the answer that you get for that will kind of depend based on who you're talking to. And last, for the future ones that I'm going to talk about in this video, video is actually just another funny failed Ubisoft project, and that was Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Frontline. This was basically a shitty Ubisoft Battle Royale with the Tom Clancy IP slapped on top. This was revealed back in October of last year and had such horrendous reception that Ubisoft had to kind of come out and say they were putting the game back into the hopper to work on it a little bit more, and then eventually we found out that it was completely shelved as of July of 2022. You do have to wonder what's kind of going on over at Ubisoft, as they have had a lot of blunders as of late, but this appears to just be another BR to fall into the big grave of all the other failed Battle Royales. And that's, like I said, pretty much the history of the Battle Royale up to this point, and even a little bit into the future. While it's hard to know how long the Battle Royale genre is going to remain dominant, as of right now, it shows no signs of slowing down. However, while games like Warzone, Apex, Fortnite, and even PUBG remain huge, it does seem like space for new games in the genre is starting to shrink, with the multitude of high-profile AAA failures or cancellations, along with the vast quantity of indie or smaller battle royales that have failed that we didn't even touch on in this video. It will be interesting to see how many more companies try to take a swing in the battle royale space with a standalone BR or even implementing BRs into their other products. One thing we didn't talk about in this video, as it isn't really a battle royale, but there are some influences that go back and forth, is a style of game that some people call an extraction shooter, and this is games like Hunt Showdown, Escape from Tarkov, the upcoming DMZ and Warzone 2, or games like The Cycle. While these games share some similarities to battle royales, the big difference for most of these is that the win condition for these isn't being the last person standing. In some cases, it can be getting a kill or two and extracting with the loot that you gathered, or various other tasks like that. You can quote unquote win a game of Hunt Showdown without even having to kill anything other than doing some of the PvE objectives, and that's really what sets apart these extraction shooters from the standard battle royale like Fortnite, where obviously if you want to win the game, you have to be the last person standing. That though, guys, is gonna do it for the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed kind of the trip through time to take a look at all these battle royales and kind of reminisce on the ones that failed, the ones that are still around, and everything like that. There's been a lot of cool battle royales that we didn't even mention in this that just honestly didn't make enough of an impact for me to decide to include them in this video, but let me know in the comments below if there's any specific ones that you think I missed talking about. Other than that, guys, if you enjoyed the video, you know what to do. Follow me over on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, all those good places, and I'll see you all next time.